besties, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyan and this is Kyan is Booked. Welcome to my August 2023 wrap up. So spoiler alert, I kind of filmed this yesterday and my wrap up was 30 minutes. And as I was watching back like what I recorded, I decided I absolutely hated it. So here we are a day later. And I'm re-recording this kind of with like a new concept, I guess you could say. So I'm gonna run through a list of like all the books I read, right? So I read 19 books this month, so I'm gonna like rapid fire be like, hey, I gave this book whatever stars, and this is how I felt about it. And kind of do that quickly. And then I'm gonna pick 5 books that I'm gonna gush over, like what I would consider like my top 5 of the month. This way, my wrap-ups every month aren't going to be like 45, 50 minutes, number one. And number two, I don't have to do the mid-month wrap-up because I'm not a hater of people who do that. I would just prefer to use that slot, like that video slot, for something else. Also, it's supposed to rain all day, so the sun's going to be coming in and out. And now we have this like really like wild look, and then, oh gosh, here comes the sun. Anyway, so that's kind of how I am gonna do my wrap-ups moving forward. So I still get an opportunity to kind of highlight all the books that I read, but I really get a chance to talk about like my favorites of the month. Yes. So without further ado, I am gonna start at the top and run it down for you. So I read Beneath the Wreckage by Catherine Cowles. This is book 5 in the Wreckage series. This is Hunter and Piper's book. 5 stars. I loved them as a couple. I love that Hunter finally got his happily ever after, and I loved the redemption story arc for Piper. And yeah, I mean, I haven't read a Catherine Cowles that I haven't liked at this point. I am 1 series away from being caught up on the series that she's actually currently writing, and I'm very excited about that. The next one I read was Shut Out by Avery Keelan. I don't know why I want to call her Cleveland. Avery Keelan. This is Tyler and Seraphina's book, aka Hades and Tink. They have a really scandalous bathroom hookup. Come to find out, he is her brother's teammate on the hockey team. I love this book. I love this storyline. I love both the couples in the series, so I'm really hoping that we're going to get the opportunity to see more couples from the team. And I'm just having a really good time with everything that Avery releases, so obviously Shut Out was going to be a 5-star for me. Next, we have Garnet Flats by Devony Perry. I gave this 4 stars. I know there's a lot of controversy when this book came out. I've read a lot of reviews too about how people feel like he didn't redeem himself, he didn't grovel enough, etc., because it is a second chance. It's a pretty big second chance in my humble opinion. And I understood where Foster was coming from, and I know why he hurt Talia, because he felt like he was doing the right thing in the moment. Doesn't mean I have to like it. So I enjoyed the couple. I enjoyed them finally getting their happily ever after. I just didn't enjoy how long it took them to get there. So 4 stars for Garnet Flats. The next book I read was Jasper Vale, also in the Eden series. This is Jasper and Elise, and I can tell you right now, 5 stars. I'll get into that later because it's definitely in my top 5 for the month. Next, I read Desperation and Death, which is book 56 or 57 in the In Death series. Eve takes down a sex trafficking ring. Two of the girls escape, one ends up being murdered, and the second one ends up being able to give valuable information for Eve to dismantle it from the very center of the entire ring. There's really nothing you can tell me about Eve Dallas at this point. There's really nothing you can tell me about this series. Obviously it was a 4-star. Because, well, it's Eve, and it's Eve and Rourke, and it's Eve and Peabody, and there's really nothing, honestly, that you could tell me that will change my mind. If you haven't started picking up the series, I highly recommend that you pick up Naked in Death, which is the very first book, published all the way back in 1995. J.D. Robb, aka Nora Roberts, releases 2 books a month in this series, and I'm actually really excited because the next book in the series comes out in a couple days, and I'm actually going to listen to it in real time. I've never been caught up. So, Desperation and Death, 4 stars. I love Eve Dallas. The next one I read was Lola and the Millionaires, part 1. So I read Baby and the Howlers like years ago, and that's really dramatic, but I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago. And Lola was her best friend. She ends up getting into a bad situation with some alphas, goes through a lot of trauma. So if you have trigger warnings, I highly recommend checking the trigger warnings on this. Because yeah, I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars, mostly just because it's a duet, and yes, some of my favorite authors write duets, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. And it doesn't mean I didn't want their happily ever after in the first book. So I'm really very excited to read part 2, which is also out as well. I waited until both of them were out. But I mean, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It's another wonderful Omegaverse book. And I would recommend definitely starting the series, but start with Baby and the Howlers because it definitely builds up to Lola and the Millionaires. Next book I read was Nikolai, a Mafia Prince Romance. I gave this 3 stars. I can't really tell you what I remember about it. It was one of those one-liner book talk books, and I fell prey to it, and unfortunately it just didn't work out for me. Maybe it would have worked out by the time I got to like part 4 or part 5, but I just didn't have the patience to get there, so here we are. Sinful Hearts by Jagger Cole. This is Hades and Elsa's book, Enemies to Lovers. She is the family's lawyer. He perceives her as being like super cold. He is, I would perceive him as like the bad boy, like womanizer, and they hook up even though he doesn't know they hooked up. So I really love this. Actually, Jenn from the book Refuge, she's been talking about Jagger Cole's books, and he's actually a male romance writer. So I was like, wait a second, like a man wrote this book? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I was just really shocked because there wasn't like a stark difference. Like most of the time you can tell, and I couldn't. So I will definitely be reading the rest of his backlist. I'm very excited. His covers are to die for, and I absolutely love this story. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I listened to was Encore and Death. This is the last, so this is book like 57, and Payback and Death is the next one, which is the one that releases this coming week. So Encore and Death is a woman 20 years ago became famous because she took over a role after the lead actress had an overdose, and she's throwing a party at her house, and her husband ends up drinking cyanide poisoning and dies. And there's a lot of drama, a lot of dramatics with like the cast and going back 20 years, and Eve tries to connect the dots of how like the overdose from 20 years ago adds up to the husband then dying today. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Like I said, you can't tell me anything about JD Robb, and you sure can't tell me anything about Eve Dallas because she is that bitch. And that's all I gotta say about that. Next, I read Captive of a Horde King. This was actually our book club pick for August. So Jess from Love to Love Books and I have a book club. It's The Good, the Bad, the Smoney on Instagram. And our August pick was Captive of the Horde King. And guys, I haven't read an alien romance in a hot minute, but I can tell you I had the best time with this book. Also, I mean, come on, look at this cover. I had the best time with this book. For all of my thoughts, you could definitely go follow The Good, the Bad, the Smoney on Instagram and watch our replay, but this was a 5-star book for me. It was also my first Zoe Draven book. Not my last, as you're gonna see in just a second. But I had a really, really good time with this book, and I highly recommend starting the series. I do know she has another series that is, what is it? Vampire aliens, I think. So Jess actually mentioned it in our live show, so I'm really excited to get to that as well. Another author that I'm kind of looking at completing their backlist, so watch out. The next book I read was Claimed by the Horde King. I also gave that 5 stars. I will talk about it in just a minute because it's definitely one of my top 5ers this month. I'm on the 3rd book in the series right now, and I'm really loving it, and I'm having the best time, so nobody interrupt me. Thanks. I read Heartless by Elsie Silver, and I'm doing a separate vlog for this, so it is in my top 5, but I'm not going to talk about it, because you're gonna have to watch the vlog, because I actually filmed the clips yesterday, but I went on like a very positive rant about the series and Daddy Cade. But anyways, it's a 5-star, and yeah. And then right after I read Heartless, I literally returned it to Kindle Unlimited, and then grabbed Powerless, which is Jasper and Sloane's book. This is also a 5-star. This is also in my top 5. Guys, you can't tell me anything about Jasper, and that's all I'm gonna say because I can't ruin the vlog by giving all of my thoughts in my wrap up. But anyway, 5 stars to Jasper and Powerless. Next book up is going to be Money Shot by Heather Long. This is book 4 in the Blue Ivy Prep series. This follows KC, Caitlin Cross, if you will, and her 3 douchebags, or the douchebag 3 as her friends call them, and their love story. So this is the final book in the Blue Ivy Prep series, like I said. So it is in my top, so my top's gonna be really short this month, but whatever. It is in my top 5. I have anticipated Caitlin's book since I was reading the Untouchable series, which is Frankie and her guys, because that's where we meet Caitlin, and Torched, which is the band that she's in. So I've been anticipating it. It has been such a fun ride to watch her, I don't want to say tame her douchebags because like she didn't really tame them, but it's just been really fun to watch them get together. We solve all the story plot lines, which I was kind of stressed about the closer we got. I was right about some. I was really wrong about some others. I gasped at one point at the end, and I'm not going to say it because it's a spoiler, but Heather got me. She 100% got me. I loved it though. The next book I read was Brutal Obsession by S. Massey. Mastery. I hope I'm saying that correctly. So I want to preface this by saying that I don't think I was in the right mindset for a dark romance. I loved it. It just took me some time to realize like how far the bullying was gonna go in this. And now that I know that they're all psychopaths, like, sign me up. Sign your girl up. So this story follows Violet and Devereaux. That's his last name. I really hope I'm saying it correctly. But he hits her in a car accident, ends her ballet career, and it just becomes like a battle of wits, a battle of who's gonna outsmart who, a battle of how far are you gonna take it. And we took it. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I am very excited to continue the series. But if you're going to read this, please check the trigger warnings. Please check other people's reviews of the trigger warnings. I can't remember if they're in the front of the book or not. Please check other people's reviews because we go far, we go dark, and I don't want anyone to be unprepared for anything that they're going to read in this book. Next up, I read, oh my gosh, the books are out of order. I thought I had them in order. Anyway. So the Witsex series by Ashley Rostek, the final book came out on August 31st. So I binge read Find Me, which I gave 4 stars again, and then Save Me, which I gave 4 stars, and Love Me, which I gave 4 stars. No, I gave this one 5 stars. I'm sorry. I just got into the rhythm there. I gave this one 5 stars. And then Free Me is the final book in the series, which I also gave 5 stars. So basically, I don't want to go too far into what Free Me is, but the series as a whole is this young lady. Let me make sure this isn't a spoiler. Okay, yeah, it's in the first sentence. So her family, so she's being stalked by a man and her family is brutally murdered. She's the only one who survives. So she's put into the witness protection program, and she ends up in Arizona. She meets these 4 guys, Creed, Colt, Kellen, and Knox. They're all brothers. And she ends up falling for all 4 of them, but there is obviously all of the trauma. There is obviously everything that she's hiding, and there is all of the drama that comes with being in WITSEC. Mostly the fact that you can't tell people you're in WITSEC. So this was a wild ride. I really liked the fact that I read the final book and I had all the answers to my questions. The only thing, and I actually saw a review that mentioned this on Amazon, the only thing that I'm like, is I just wanted the epilogue to be longer. Like I wanted to see them happier longer, I guess is the best way to say it. But I'm an extended epilogue girly and not everybody is. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. So those were the 19 books that I read in the month of August. So I'm going to list my top 5. Like I said, 2 of them I can't talk about, but I want you to understand that they're in my top 5. I want to be very clear with you guys about how much I liked them. So we'll start with them. Heartless, Dedicated is in my top 5 this month. There will be a vlog I promise you there will be a vlog, because I am actually reading Reckless right now, which will be the end of the reading vlog. Anyway, 5 stars for Daddy Cade. The next one is obviously Powerless, which is Jasper and Sloane. 5 stars for Jasper. Y'all don't talk about him enough, and that's all I'm gonna say. So the next top 5er that I want to talk about is Claimed by the Horde King. So Claimed by the Horde King, so like I said, we did this one as our book club pick. So the second book in the series, I am blanking on their names right now, and of course I didn't write them down, so just stick with me here. The Horde King in this book is not of like any royal bloodline or anything, and his mom actually convinces like the head king that he should be allowed to enter the competition to become a Horde King. So she is a sex worker, she's a concubine, and the king covets her because her hair is golden. And then her son's hair is also golden, and gold is like very important to the Horde King, the top Horde King guy, because they believe it comes from the goddess who is the goddess of the earth, essentially, and it's considered good luck. So he's allowed to enter the trials. Nobody thinks he's gonna win. He beats everybody, he becomes a Horde King, right? So here he is, a Horde King that shouldn't be a Horde King by anybody's standards, and he goes to one of the human settlements because Earth doesn't exist. We've all gone to different planets, and we live on alien planets because we destroyed our environment here on Earth. Anyway, moving on. So there's been wind that there is hunting up there, and they don't allow humans to hunt their game because they don't want it hunted to extinction, right? So they find out who it is, and it's one of the females and one of the human women in the camp. And rather than kill her, he takes her as, like, he basically kidnaps her. In a sense, she can't really like agree or disagree because like she's feverish and she's very ill. So they go back to where his horde is settled for the time being, because they roam the land and they move around like as a camp essentially. But think like a really giant camp on steroids, right? Because there's like hundreds of people who live in these hordes. What I loved about this one is the fact that like the Horde King is like, he knows he shouldn't be there, and he's very realistic about like his standing in life and like how lucky, but also too, he has like all this trauma and all this stuff that he just really hasn't dealt with, right? Because he's a Horde King, why would he need to deal with it? And he knows he's falling for this woman, and he knows he shouldn't, and he knows it'll put his place as a Horde King in a questionable place because he shouldn't be one. And now here he is trying to take a female mate, and then some drama happens and he falls prey to people trying to influence him because he's scared and he's alone, and his mom doesn't offer any support because she's with the king, right? And I really liked the way how she, our female main character, and I'm gonna put it here if I remember it because it's really bothering me that I can't. And I really love that she is that person for him once he realizes and like once he lets her in. And there's just something about like the traumatized hero that shouldn't be where he is, but is kind of insecure about it, that just does something to me. So right now, Claimed by the Horde King is my favorite in the series. I mean, I'm only on book 3, but I think there's only 6 books. There's only 6 Horde Kings. So anyways, I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying it. This one is my favorite one. And I'm just so excited to have found a series that is just a lot of fun. And I love paranormal, and I guess I love aliens a little bit more than I thought I did. But so that is book number 3. Book number 4 is going to be Jasper Vale by Devony Perry. And this is in no particular order, so I don't want you to think that this is like a ranking. I'm just simply saying like books I love. So let's talk about Jasper, and let's talk about the fact that I also think he's very underrated in the Eden series. So much like the other Jasper and Powerless, I don't think we talk about Jasper Vale enough, okay? I really don't, because he comes from like a really messed up background. He is who he is. Like, we meet him in Garnet Flats, actually. He is best friends with Foster, who is our male main character, right? So I'm like, okay, so he hooks up with Eloise. They get drunk in Vegas and they get married because, come on now, like, we need at least one Vegas love story in the series, and I'm trash for it. Right? Well, what I love about Jasper is that he likes Eloise for exactly who she is. Like, everybody else is trying to put her into a box. Everybody else is being like, you need to be more responsible. You need to stop being so, like, gosh, what was the wording? I can't remember the wording right now, but they need her to shore up her defenses. She needs to stop being so vulnerable. She needs to stop like leading with her heart, essentially. And Jasper's like, no, like that's the best part about Eloise. That's what I care. That's what I love about her so much, is that like you don't fit her into a box, because she doesn't fit into a box, because that's who she is. And like, we knew that he loved her, he just didn't know, right? And Eloise is out here thinking like he just doesn't care, and she's like in her feelings about everything. But like, this man's trash for her, and he's trash for her from the very beginning. And whether he wants to admit it or not. And there's a lot of drama that goes into this book. Like, this is probably one of the most dramatic books in the Eden series. Yeah, I would say this one is. And I'm a huge Juniper Hill girly too. Like, I loved that book. But there was just something about Jasper Vale, and there was just something about the fact, like, there's just one quote, and I posted on my Instagram the other day, and I don't have it in front of me right now, where he's like, I hate that word on her lips, because like her emotions and like her vulnerability is like who she is. And I just like, there's just something about a man that looks at his woman and is like, no, like, you're perfect the way you are, even though we all know she's not perfect. Like, Jasper knows too, but he never asked her to change those aspects of herself, because that's what he found most attractive about her. And I don't fault her parents for the things that they said to Eloise, because like, she didn't need to grow up just like a little bit. Like, I mean, they're handing a business over to her, right? So I understand what they were saying, but I just really appreciated the fact that Jasper was like, no, like, she's fine the way she is, but thanks for asking. And oh, so rocky with the Edens and Jasper there at the beginning, but our scene in the end kind of solidifies his place in the Eden family. And I just really liked the relationship that he was building with her brothers and her dad there at the end. And I'm hoping when I read Crimson River, I get like a little bit of like a peek at them. But it's the month of the Jaspers, I guess, because Jasper Vale was just, it definitely unseated Juniper Hill as my favorite in the series. And I just like, I love that he was like, no, she doesn't fit in this box. And like, that's what I love about her. Okay. I'll stop ranting about all the Jaspers now. I promise. So book 5, like the one that I want to talk a little bit about, is going to be Money Shot by Heather Long. So I know I kind of talked about it, and I could talk about like the beginning of the series and the fact that like It's Why Choose. All 3 of them are actually her stepbrothers. The family genealogy in this series is just wild. So like, as you read, like, you'll start to kind of like pick up on everything. So I kind of want to talk about like bullet points of like broad things that I really liked about this last book. So I really liked that everybody sat Casey down and said, hey, like, you need to stop taking on so much, and you need to trust that other people can help you with things. Because she's just like, she's a fixer. She's a doer. She's like, okay, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do that, and blah, blah. And like, she never gives people the opportunity to help her with things because people just let her down, right? Like, that's her viewpoint on it. So I really liked the fact that like they finally sat her down and was like, hey, like, stop taking everything on. Like, we can help you with this, but you just need to let us help you. Okay, you need to let us help you help yourself and help us at the same time. Like, the guys are just like, we can help you, but like, you never give us the opportunity. You just say, hey, this is what we're doing. And they're like, we don't want to rock the boat, but we also don't want to see you burn yourself out. So I loved that they were able to have that communication. This is gonna sound kind of weird. There's a situation where the 3 of the guys are caught in a compromising position, right? And I knew there was gonna be some drama around it, because I knew it wasn't gonna go as flawlessly as like we all hoped it was gonna go. But I appreciated the intention behind what they were trying to do with the situation. It has to do with her guitar, and that's all I'm gonna say, because if you know, you know, and if you don't know, pick the books up. Anyway, I appreciated the fact that they were trying to fix the situation for her, but it didn't quite go as planned. But their hearts were there, and I know that like in their mind, they were just trying to take this off her plate, trying to solve it so she didn't have to worry about it, because she already has to worry about so much in regards to her family and in regards to everything else. So I appreciated the fact that they recognized the situation that they could help out with. Now, should they have communicated it better? You're getting no argument from me, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely. They could maybe even just a little bit of communication would have been nice. But it's like bittersweet too. So like I want to talk about it because it's bittersweet because I love Casey and the guys, and I love the fact that we got to see into their relationship, but I kind of feel, and I am just throwing this out in the atmosphere, I kind of feel like if Heather were to write like a tour series, I would read it. Don't tease me with a good time, okay? Because I'm there. Because I really just want to see what, like, so yeah, they conquered Blue Ivy Prep, they conquered college, they conquered high school together, but like, what would it be like if they're out there like in the real world touring and living their best lives? You know what I mean? So I kind of just really want to see that aspect of their relationship. So I'm hoping that Heather wakes up one day and goes, ooh, let me write a tour duet or trilogy, or I don't know, 9 books, because I'll read it. She's a long-winded writer, and I'm not mad about it. And I'm not being mean when I say that, because like that's how she refers to herself too. So like, don't be like, ooh, you're talking. No, I'm not. I'm really not. She's a long-winded writer. But we love her for it because I love the plot. I love everything that we get from the characters, and I really feel like I know these characters when the series is done. So that's the 19 books I read in August. Those are my top 5. You're probably like, I really want to hear your thoughts on Chestnut Springs. Don't worry, I'm trying really hard to finish that vlog so I can get it released soon. Belle, I'm just trying to give the outro here. So those are the 19 books that I read in the month of August. Did you see any favorites? Did you have any ratings you might disagree with? Like, tell me in the comments. Also, if I started a series or I talked about an author and you have a book recommendation, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I am always willing to add things to my TBR. But yeah, that's it for me. Belle decided that this is the time she was gonna get up and walk around, so I guess it's a good thing that I am done with this video. But make sure you do all the YouTube-y things, like, subscribe, comment. I do, now that the hurricane is over, I am gonna get back to making sure my content is going up every week. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye!